Hello everybody and welcome back to the Fantasy Football Fix YouTube channel. My name's FPL Phillips and this is going to be your quick guide for the next few game weeks. So game weeks 5 to 8 is what we're covering, or the kind of wildcard guide, the players you're going to want to load up on, the teams that have the best fixtures over the next couple of game weeks, who are predicted to score the most points, and also a little bit of a debate into some of the more premium options at the moment as well, and whether Heung-min Son is actually worth going for. So we've got all that to discuss in today's video. Make sure to subscribe if you're new to the channel and leave a thumbs up if you do enjoy it. But without any further ado, let's get into things and kick things off with the teams to target over the next couple of game weeks. And as usual, this is taken from the Fantasy Football Fix Fixture Analyzer tool. So if you want to check that and all the other tools that the website has to offer, then you can do so via the links down below in the description. Make sure to check out all the free ones. You can do so, as mentioned, down below with all those links available. So which are the best attacks to target and which are the best defenses to target? We can split this up into two different sections, as you can see here, just as you can do with the Fixture Analyzer tool yourself. If you want to go over and adjust game week ranges or adjust which game weeks in particular, load up a specific game week for players you want to target. If you want to rotate someone out for someone else, which kind of teams do you want to go for? You can do all of that. So there's loads of availability for how you want to use the tool yourself. But the top attacks to target over the next 4 game weeks would be Fulham, Everton, Tottenham, Newcastle and Luton, judging by the fixtures. So some surprising teams in there, and definitely some teams in there whose attacks haven't looked that great, but maybe, fixtures can be king and they can breed some form for some assets from some of these sides. So Fulham, I'm not sure there's really anyone that we're looking at in too much notes. Raul Jimenez maybe up front would be perhaps the only one. Andreas was a decent option last season, but there seems to be quite a lot of attacking assets in that Fulham side. I think Raul Jimenez will probably be on penalties over Andreas as well, so it's going to be tough to load up on one of them when there are so many other better midfield options really, and even better second striker options, far better than Raul Jimenez at the moment. We have got Everton in here, who I think that are just a wait and see when the majority of their options. They brought in that new forward guy who looks very decent, so I think he's a wait and see, 6 million. So to be honest, again, Everton, not what I'm looking at. Over the next 2 is rather tricky as well. They just have Luton and Bournemouth in game week 7 and game week 8. So I think the case is really, you've just got to wait and see for those fixtures. And then in game week 7, if an option is looking promising, you could definitely go for them in game week 7, hold them for those 2 game weeks, and then maybe if you're considering a game week 9 wild card, that could be a nice punt that you could go for over those 2 game weeks. We've also got Spurs, who I think are one of the ones who are far more justified in terms of loading up on them. Madison, who's in here, and Heung-min Son, who we're going to discuss in a second, definitely the main attackers. But as well as that, Udogie at left back, who's been very attacking. His heat map looks fantastic. His underlying data going forward looks good. Pedro Porro has also been very creative. So I think really the optimal strategy is to own either 2 midfielders in Madison and Son, and then 1 defender, or maybe even go for 2 defenders and 1 midfielder if you're very happy with your midfield 5 and you don't see yourself wanting to own both of Madison and Son in the future. But personally, leaning towards leaving myself open to owning both Madison and Son at the moment, as we'll justify a little bit later on. But Newcastle look good as well, to be honest. I'm looking more towards their defensive fixtures than I am with the attack. They're 4th for attacking difficulty, but 2nd for defensive difficulty. So Fabian Schär looks good. Kieran Trippier as well, although there are rumours that, with Champions League football coming in, when they've got a tough group, maybe, he's getting on a bit. Could Livramento come in for a couple of those games? Could Hall be rotated in at left back? Perhaps Fabian Schär and Botman, if he's fit, could prevent safer options. And then the final attacking team are Luton, who I'm only really looking at Morris from, and still as kind of another one in that Fulham and Everton category where they just aren't looking like they're scoring enough goals for me to be able to invest in them. On the flip side, with the defensive fixture difficulty, we've got Fulham in there again. And to be honest, one option that I would maybe be looking at is Leno, due to the fact that there are just a very limited supply of keeper options at the moment who look good. A lot of us own Pickford or Johnston, who might lose his place to Dean Henderson, and then Turner. So we can fare Turner this week for the game home against Burnley. But after that, in the future, there could be some issues. And maybe in game week 6, we might require a goalkeeper transfer. If that's the case, then maybe it's even worth going early for Leno this week. If you don't have a move you want to make and you've got 2 free transfers or something, Leno could be a really nice option. He's got Luton at home, then he's got Palace away, then Chelsea at home, then Sheffield United at home. So 2 very, very nice home fixtures over the next 4 game weeks. And Chelsea at times, although they've got the chances, have looked very, very kind of wasteful in front of goal is the word I was looking for there. So yeah, maybe even Leno could be one to go for at the moment. We know in even some of the big games where he plays a team like Chelsea, he can scrape through a clean sheet and come off with a massive haul thanks to his save and bonus points that he can grab as well. We've then got Everton, who I'm definitely avoiding in terms of defence, and Aston Villa then come in, who, to be honest, just have a few too many injuries for me to look at the moment. I really like Matty Cash as an offensive option, but there are a few downsides to him. Tyrone Mings being lost at centre-back, and then Diego Carlos as well, who's picked up an injury, which I'm a little bit unsure of the severity of, means that Consa will probably be required a little bit more at centre-back, and that may mean that Cash is kind of forced to play in a back four rather than a back five, where he'll have less attacking threat going forward. There's also the threat of Alex Moreno coming back into the side, so he'll come in and probably take up the more attacking of the fullback or wing-back roles, meaning that Cash will have a little bit more defensive duty and less of that attacking threat as well. So there are a few things that are swinging me away from maybe bringing in Matty Cash just quite yet. They do have some nice fixtures, however, over the next couple of games, and I like him very much for attacking returns as well. And then finally, Tottenham in there too. So that's good, backing up for my case for Porro and for also Adogi as well. But yeah, there is one Spurs asset in particular who's going to be talked about a lot this week, and it is Heung-min Son. And of note, I think that whether we go with him or whether we leave a spot open for Salah could be something of debate. Now, there would be a possibility, I think, to have Salah, Son and Haaland in the same draft, but you're going to end up making sacrifices elsewhere. Maybe you'll have to lose a Rashford or a Saka or someone else in the team that you don't want to. So I think in the majority of cases, we're probably only going to be able to own one of these guys. And at the time I'm recording this, Salah does look like he will be staying in the Premier League. But there may well be a bid that comes in before Thursday or whenever the Saudi transfer window closes that is maybe too good to refuse for Liverpool. And maybe somehow he ends up there. But for the moment, I'm assuming Salah stays in the Premier League for this kind of debate and comparison. And although the data for Son doesn't look as promising as Salah's does, this is evident by all the green numbers on Salah's side of the two columns, there is a reason, I think, for why Son's data does look so poor, and it's that over the first 3 game weeks he was playing in a completely different position to where it looks like he'll be playing, fingers crossed and touch wood, from now on. I say that because although Son's moved from the left wing to the striker position, there is every chance that he does end up going back on the left wing, I think, and we need to see some comments from Ange about whether who's going to play up front, whether Brennan Johnson's been brought in to kind of compete with Son or maybe even start himself through the middle, or whether Brennan Johnson, who's very capable of playing off the left, will be playing there instead, and his competition more for Solomon out on the left-hand side. But I think there's every chance that we see Heung-min Son as the kind of central striker for the rest of the season, maybe even. With no Europe and stuff like that to worry about, I think he looks a fantastic option, and the data from Game Week 4 looks really good, and we know that anyway, Son always tends to outperform his expected goals. He gets more goals than his XG data suggests. He tends to just be that kind of player where he's very clinical, he's a fantastic finisher, and that lends him to being a really good FPL asset, and often at times the data being a little bit harsh to Son, basically, in terms of not representing his true ability in front of goal. So yeah, in that case, I think that I would prioritise going for Son over Salah at this point. I know Salah's like returning every single game, and he does look good, but the fixtures aren't the best for Liverpool, and you know, Son's got that lovely game against Sheffield United this week. If you're looking for a transfer this week in particular, then he'd definitely be the one to go for me. Or maybe I will just hold off for a week or 2 more, maybe even 3 weeks to get past that Liverpool fixture and bring him in for the Luton game alternatively, making sure that he's kind of up and playing still in that number 9 role. I know we've got maybe other things assured, like whether he's on penalties or not. It could be him, it could be Maddison. At the moment, it's looking a little bit more likely that Heung-min Son will be the spot kick taker, but it's still another thing that's put a little bit of doubt in my mind with regards to Son. But I really, really like the look of him. I wish I could kind of get him in this week. I think the dilemma a lot of us will be having is we've got 5 decent-looking midfielders or very good-looking midfielders, and we don't know which one of those we want to take out for Heung-min Son this week. And some of us also have a lot of other fires in our defence, in our forward line, even in our goalkeeper situation. As I mentioned earlier, there are problems with our teams, and free transfers are quite valuable at the moment. So that's my case for going with Heung-min Son. I really like it. If you've got 2 free transfers this week and not a lot else wrong with your team, then definitely bring him in, would be my advice. But of course, wait on your transfers. He might rise in price 1 or even 2 more times. I would still value the information over making an early move to bring him in. But in that vein, we'll look at the predicted points over the next couple of game weeks then. It's going to be hard for the algorithm to kind of predict where Son will be playing, I suppose, but he does still make it into this top 10, and the fixtures are for those same that we've seen throughout the video, the 4 games from game week 5 to game week 8. And Haaland, unsurprisingly, tops the metric. 27 predicted points for him, with Salah on 22.6. ahead of other players. So Leno is in here, 19.9. That is very surprising to me, but does back up what I suggested earlier, Leno being the superior option of that Fulham side. We've then got Bukayo Saka at 19.5 and James Maddison at 19.1, tied with Heung-min Son. So both Spurs assets rated equally by the algorithm over the next few weeks. Jarrod Bowen at 18.4, can he continue to perform in that West Ham side who have kind of still been a little bit written off by people due to their tough fixtures? But I think he's one that is definitely one to keep on the radar. You just can't own everyone at the moment, and Bowen seems to be one who people are kind of throwing into that bucket of would like to own, just don't have enough midfield spots for him. Same kind of thing with Odegaard. I still do really like him as an option. I just think Saka is still that little bit more superior, and the data from the first couple of game weeks still isn't quite with Odegaard, but I can see him getting a lot of goals this season, pulling up towards that edge of the box spot or just inside the penalty area. He's a great finisher from that range. We've then got Alexander Isak and then also Flecken. So another 4.5 goalkeeper option who, although he doesn't have the nicest fixture this week away at Newcastle, could definitely be a keeper option to bring in game week 6 and weigh up alongside someone else like a Leno if you're looking for a keeper replacement, because Flecken's not got the nicest fixture this week, but we can play Turner against Burnley at home this week and then consider starting Flecken from game week 6 onwards. So that's the top 10 and my thoughts on those players. I hope this guide has been helpful to you in terms of making all your FPL decisions ahead of the upcoming game week. Just a reminder to definitely hold off on any transfers until we've got a little bit more news and we've had time to see whether people get injured and whatnot over the international break. But I hope you guys have some time to relax away from FPL anyway, and you're able to find other outlets in terms of finding some entertainment at the weekend when all the football's not on and all that stuff. Make sure to check out all the tools down below in the description so that you're all tooled and kitted up for when FPL does return and you can gain the edge over all the people you're trying to beat in your mini league. You can do so via all the links down below in the description, as I've mentioned about 6 times at this rate. But yeah, thank you very much for tuning in. Make sure to subscribe to the channel for more helpful and useful, hopefully, FPL content. And I hope to catch you in the next one. Goodbye.